Howie and Beastmode podcast, where we discuss all things business, including growth, strategy, and execution, as well as personal and professional development. Let's join Howie and Beastmode in conversation.
All right. Well, I am going to share my screen, and as we've been doing for the last couple of months, I've liked the format a lot where we talk about each point. This is this is the last week that we're going to talk about building during difficulty. There are some non-gateway group podcasts around this as well, in case you want to pick those up on the Howie and Beastmode podcast. But this is one that we covered on the podcast last week, and we really felt like there's so much rich value in having us all talk about partnerships and how that can help us that in our careers and in business, that we thought it'd be good to go ahead and cover this tonight. So that's the topic: building during difficulty, season 3 or something, whatever we've covered here, and it's leveraging partnerships. So the general idea in businesses and in careers is that we have our core business that we can do and we can handle, but then there might be adjacent businesses that we can offer to our customers through partnerships. So actually, I'll go ahead and illustrate. I'll take the first seat and then I'll pass it around to you guys. But I'll take the first one to kind of because my side hustle is literally nothing but partnerships. So it makes sense that I talk about that. So if you think about it, in my case, I get a little bit of money. I get a cut, like 10% or different, depends on the vendor, for referring the small businesses that I'm going to be educating, referring them to these cybersecurity companies or to other services that I may offer in the future. And so I get 10%, 50%, whatever it may be. One of them is even higher than that, actually. And then the vendor, that partner, that software company or that consultant, they get a lot more. They get between 75 and 90% depending on the offering. And so they get a lot of money, and all they did is take the lead, right? So I had to do all the hard work of finding the business. It may have taken me thousands of dollars, and it may have taken me even months or even years to develop that lead. And they got to receive that benefit. So the benefit to the partner in that case is free money. Like 85% of something is a whole heck of a lot better than zero. And it's a win-win, because then I get 15% of that or whatever it may be as well. So that's why there's a win-win there. And the customer has a third win because they benefit from something that I was able to connect them with that they actually need. And so that's just an example of a partnership. But for me, partnerships are just great opportunities to serve customers and have a relationship where you're looking out for your partner and they're looking out for you. So anybody else who wants to go next to talk about partnerships from their perspective, whether it be, and I'd be interested if somebody brings in career, not just small business or side hustle or whatever, but I'd be really interested also in that aspect of partnerships. Jordan, your business is kind of geared also to partnerships. So why partnerships? What is a partnership in your eyes? Why are partnerships good?
Yeah. So JL is geared 100% towards JL being a partner to another business. We can technically operate outside of that, but I don't think that that's the vision God has given me for JL. And so basically we're just an extension of what they're currently doing, providing a service that they either already have, but just want to do it a little better, or it's an outsource, but they're not outsourcing it to where there's no connectivity. So I think partnerships totally beneficial, as we talked about in the podcast, and I think we'll continue talking about, is that partnerships allow me to do what I do well and not focusing on what I don't do well. So it allows me to put all my focus, all my energy on what I do well, and allows me to um, humbly, which we'll talk about a little bit later too, allows me to humbly either be a lead and passing leads down, or it allows me to be the lead and supporting whoever the lead role is. So.
Yeah, it's interesting that when you start making those connections, you have a network effect, and you start to build some bi-directional, so for example, if I give a lead to somebody who does a certain type of consulting, but and I have a and I take good care of them, and I'm honest, and we have a good relationship. If they hear about cybersecurity stuff for small business in Texas and Oklahoma, they're going to pass them to me, right? And so there's this interesting effect. The more we network, and as an introvert, I'm a terrible networker actually. But as I have these intentional opportunities for connection, then then life can happen either way. And like right now we're connecting, and we have life that we can give each other. We have for weeks, if not years actually at this point, where life comes in either direction. And so there's something about not being on an island, but having a partnership that life can come to you and you can give life.
Yeah, and you can have a non-financial partnership. Not all partnerships have to exchange resources, paid or commissioned or things like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great way to initially begin partnerships, is just to provide either provide a service or just provide the insight to somebody who can do the job better than you or more specific than you, and create an avenue for a partnership. So.
Nice. Good point. You're right. Because then you're a broker of trust, and not just a broker of transactions.
Right.
Cool. Dennis, you obviously have been in a lot of different kinds of business. What's your perspective on partnerships?
I don't have any specific to it. I mean, to me, kind of life in the last, I would say, 3,000 years has been partnerships, right? If you look at the employer-employee relationship, that's a partnership. It's good for the employee because he gets the means for the living, and obviously it's great for the employer because employer pays less than the benefits it gets back from the employee, right? In any kind of specializations, you would have some implicit and explicit partnerships just all around you.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. DW.
Yeah, I really don't have a whole lot other than the way that we do things, obviously, that we manage, I would say, the partner's money, I guess. So we make sure that, we're spending the money correctly and being as cost effective as possible. Obviously, it's monetary. They pay us to do it. But then also we've got, other people in different departments as partners. We've got people who sell the contracts to different dealerships. So it's really just, everything's about partnership. Everything's about friendship, relational, obviously.
It's good.
I would like to add to that. Everything and company wise requires partnership, because a company is like a body. You have your hands, you have your head, you have your your core, you have your legs. So everybody plays an important part inside the organization. So we need to partner each other to make it profitable, to generate value. So it's not something that if you think about a body and you're doing a work that requires all, so it's all parts working together. If you don't have one hand, then you don't perform the same way.
Wow.
So similarly is in the organizations.
Yeah, I mean, there's scripture about that, how, you can't say to this part of the body that you're not
Yes.
needed. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's really good. So it generates the ability to help each other, and it has that network effect. And, from your software development background, you're very familiar with the concept of APIs. And what an API is it's an application programming interface where, for example, any type of system, if it has an API that's connected to it, uh, it can serve and make available data to anything that has basically the username and the password for that API endpoint. So even back to old mainframes, which are still very much running today, Visa, MasterCards, stuff like that, all the way to new systems like AWS Cloud, you actually generate many, many possibilities because of that concept of connection and with these APIs. So it even has, I think this is a little bit bigger topic than at least I was planning on. And I already have benefited, frankly, from the discussion of all you guys' different perspectives. I hadn't really thought of the fact that you're right. Internally, within the company, it's a partnership. The employer-employee relationship is a partnership. Um, and then even the illustration of the technical aspect, just thinking about Paul made me think about that. The fact that even when software connects to software, it creates possibilities. So I think my transparent moment I want to share with you guys right now is that I avoid this unless I have to. And now I think I need to actually be on the hunt for it. And that sounds like a very immediate thing, like to have such an epiphany tonight. But until tonight, I kind of like sat in my introvert self and was happy to not connect. And now I realize that life and possibilities could be happening if I will do that and if I'll be intentional. So anyway, we always say we want one or two things each evening. That was my big one for sure. Anybody have anything else on kind of the what and the why up here? That was worth the whole night for me. How do you unhighlight? Stay with me 1 second. Okay, there you go. Roles, I don't know. I think we kind of talked about that. I think we kind of talked about roles and benefits, to be honest. We talked about focusing on your core. Jordan did early on. Monetizing. This goes back to your classical example of partnerships for sure. Let's just tell you what. Let's open this up in case somebody has thoughts on this. So, actually, tell you what. Let me give you a story to spark you, and then we'll go around. So my friend Richard, so I know Paul likes to bake. Okay. Now he focuses on gluten-free. My friend Richard focuses on keto. Okay. So it's in the same.
I thought you were going to say gluten full. I was about to laugh.
Okay. Yeah, extra gluten.
Extra gluten.
Yeah. No, keto. And there's a lot of different types of flour that you can use, like almond flour, coconut flour. There's ways to do keto, basically. And then he's got, I don't know, I think he finds recipes. I don't think he invents them, but maybe he does invent them. I don't know. Anyway, so what I had some pumpkin bread or pumpkin cake today that apparently was like 6 grams of carbs. Seriously, it's not keto. It can't be. It cannot be. It's amazing. And a couple of months ago, he made some Italian wedding cake. This is a guy who's an engineer at Verizon, by the way, for like old school telco stuff, like boring old POTS-based like copper wired telco, I believe. But he bakes. He just likes to bake, and he's on keto. So he's kind of put those two together. And I'm pushing him now to say, listen, your Italian wedding cake is some of the best cake I've ever had in my life. And you're telling me this is 7 carbs based on, the formula and the way. it's unbelievable. I'd pay for this. And he's made 2 or 3 things that were incredible. I'm like, Richard, you're gifted. You're really gifted at this, and you need to consider monetizing this. You need to consider how you can do that. And he goes, Brian, would you help me? He told me this 3 hours ago. Would you help me? And I'll figure out a way to pay you. And I said, let's both pray. He's a Christian. Let's both pray about it. I don't know, because now you guys know I got this other thing going on. I just don't have, plus this is kind of a passion. Baking, not so much. Eating the baking stuff is passionate, or buying it. Anyway, but Richard was like, would you help me? And I am helping another friend right now, setting up her home organizing company in HubSpot and with marketing and with all kinds of stuff right now. So I am open to helping him for free a little bit in my spare time, but I hadn't really thought about, like, I didn't want to really be paid and go into business full time with him or whatever, because I already have a side hustle. So anyway, but he's reaching out with that network effect and saying, hey, I've got a gift. People are telling me that I've got to sell this. I've got to make this available to the keto community, which is exploding. Can you help me? And so he's reaching out for that partnership. And with that connection, he's willing to pay me to do it and to help him sell it and market it and social and whatever. Okay. Which I'm pretty weak at social, to be honest. So it'd be more other things probably, or maybe Beastmode can help him. Jordan can help him. But monetizing partnerships. So he's got a gift. He knows he's only an engineer, and he's applying his engineering now in the kitchen, and he cannot sell to save his life. So he's reaching out and asking for help. So anyway, that's an example that I thought I'd give you. I thought it'd be fun because of Paul's experience, especially. But yeah, anyway, that's just one example of monetizing partnerships.
It's a good one. I mean, there's several examples that are like that where, somebody is a networker, and they constantly are running into people who can benefit. And so again, maybe the first little bit you do, like we talked about, you're providing insight, you're providing just a strategic approach. And then after that, then you begin to transfer into a referral partner. You begin to transfer into, as Howie is, let me be a reseller. I've used your product. I like your product. I think I can speak clearly and share your vision. So let me see if I can double dip on this, and then as, Howie's going to talk about with white labeling stuff. I think those are all huge, but all of them come with knowing your roles, having a purpose behind the partnership, and those all need to be clear ahead of time.
Yeah. There's a bakery in Flower Mound called Hive that sells keto goods. And I bought their stupid $12 cheesecake, and it was not great. And it was way too expensive for a tiny, the small cheesecakes, the little ones. I mean, I think it was $12. I'm not trying to exaggerate. I think it was $12. It was something really crazy like that. He could go in there, or Paul, frankly, could, with the gluten-free stuff. Yeah. And so a lot of this, so the reason I brought that up is because you said white label. So let's move on to that. That is a form. So referral is what my little side hustle is, which is I am an introducer, and I focus on what I'm good at. And I just introduce people to these software companies, and they do all the work, but it's a huge value to them. Reseller, just to give you a quick snippet of what that is, that's if I actually do the billing for the customer. So I still find the customers, but then I carry all their invoices, and I have to handle all the billing and all that headache. But then I do get more of a cut. That's the deal with the reseller. You get more money because you're carrying the customer's paper, and you're just paying the vendor directly. But then white label is what Jordan was just referring to, and that I mentioned with the bakery. So that's people like Richard, it's people like Paul who say, listen, I love to do it, and I'm interested enough to make money on it, but I don't have a store. And I have no interest in starting a store. But you know what? every Saturday, I'm totally happy to spend 3.5 hours baking and creating a batch of, 60 cookies for Hive Bakery, and they'll just resell that, and I'll deliver those Saturday evening, Sunday morning, and they'll have those available for sale. And so that's an example of a white label situation that would be, very relevant to Richard and to Paul, as well. So that's a white label arrangement. In some ways, it's also reseller too, actually.
Yeah, and white label is pretty common, from that small business example. But it's and Howie, you correct me if I'm wrong, or anybody else, but I mean, this is the way that Walmart operates a lot. I mean, I don't know the exact percentage, but I know it's a very high percentage of the items that are on Walmart shelves aren't Walmart products. It just allows the space for somebody else to come put their products in there.
Yeah,
Walmart
there's a
does
brand.
all the work, and then
it's called Great Value. It's their quote unquote their brand, but it's really a white label for, Kellogg and for, Dove, and for, you literally see the white label product sitting next to the brand name. And I still buy some of the brand names, but I do buy some of the Great Value stuff as well. But white label is super powerful to them, because now they have a product that they can sell in their name, but they don't have to go figure out how to do the best possible men's lotion or the best possible Fruit Loops. They can just white label that. And so I think it's and you're right, their stores are full of that. And I buy a lot of their Great Value stuff. So absolutely. So Dustin, how are you feeling?
In Walmart case, it's actually a little bit different idea. So in Walmart's case, basically, if you have a Kellogg and kind of their flakes, they can command some premium for the customers, and which Walmart cannot control. So the Kellogg says, well, okay, we're going to give you like a wholesale price of $3. And obviously, if they get a wholesale price of $3, they can only sell it like for $3.10, let's say. And with white label, now Walmart can go anywhere. Like if they go to General Mills and General Mills tell them, oh, well, okay, it's going to be $2. I say, you know what? I mean, it's just a commodity now. It's like anybody can produce it. So I can go to another guy and to another guy and to another guy, and now Walmart is wide open to very competitive shopping, because now the brand has no value. Since everything is kind of in Walmart brand boxes, the Walmart will go to 10 or 15 different suppliers, and whoever offers the best terms gets the contract.
Wow.
And that's why all this Great Value stuff is substantially cheaper. It's actually much more to benefit of Walmart than it is to benefit of Kellogg's and General Mills and kind of everybody else.
Wow.
But
I was unaware of that dynamic, but it makes total sense. So you're going to have, they may have a contract for lotion with Dove, but then if Dove, if their price is too high, they can go to, Procter and Gamble and use their formula and save 10 cents. And, part of that they'll pass along to you and me, part of it they'll have in margin. I was not aware of that dynamic.
Well, and if you kind of look at this dynamic a little bit broader, it now has to keep Kellogg and everybody else on their toes. Because if let's say Kellogg will be providing both their brand and the white label, and they would be able to kind of control the cost and the wholesale price to Walmart, then they would be kind of complacent, right? So we have this great brand, we just advertise it and we enjoy it. But now once they know that their brand would be sitting on the shelf right next to commodity, like to something that everybody can produce and produce fairly cheap, because I mean it's just cornflakes. Now Kellogg has to invest a lot of resources to make their brand worthwhile. because now Kellogg is at a huge pressure to kind of justify this extra dollar that they're asking for their brand. And it first of all, it gives advantage to Walmart directly by allowing to price shop, but then it gives them kind of advantage indirectly by forcing the brands to be on their toes to make their brand products actually kind of, how should I say that, attractive to the customers. And Kellogg is no longer in the position, because previously what happened previously, I mean, like 10, 15 years ago, is that Kellogg would be the one who would produce these private brands or white label, and they would just produce it with a little bit of kind of inferior quality. And so now you're standing at the shelf and you're looking at the Kellogg brand and you're looking at the white label, and you know that white label would be intentionally inferior quality, and like, well, do I willing to save or not? But now, once everything commoditized, Walmart found those people who can do white labels with exactly the same quality as Kellogg. So it's not, now this stuff is no longer inferior, because again, it's just very much commoditized and copycat. So it's really very very good for the customer and very good for Walmart. Not so good for Kellogg though.
Wow, that's fascinating. You're right. I do actually expect these days, I have a little bit of a mental something to overcome to, you know, if I've got actual Fruit Loops and then I've got fake loops next to it, you know, I do have a little bit of they've done a good job doing something about their brand to elevate that value in my mind. And I do think there's more value to that than the generic. And it could be the exact same formula. But I will say that years ago, you're right, it was worse quality. But I think, yeah, I can tell you that the generic stuff that I've used in the last few years seems equivalent. But it's funny how my mind still has a little bit of an elevated value for the brand.
It has an elevated value for the brand. And if you kind of move into a little bit a different area of science, and you look at what's called a cognitive bias, you actually make your brain you actually convince your brain to think that the brand product tastes better. But go to YouTube and look for their blind tests.
Okay.
And specifically look for the blind tests for what's kind of a known area, right? So we have these wine lovers, right? So we have people who think that they make a lot of sense in wines and kind of like what year, what harvest. Turns out that once you get these people who are, again, wine experts, it's not just kind of random people from the street, but like wine experts, and you ask them to blind test white wines from red wines, you get a very, very, very small difference from completely random.
Wow.
So long story short is that those people who got these decades and decades of experience of kind of drinking fine wine, and who kind of know about that, and who can speak about all these different things, about 80% of that lies in their mind. So basically, once they buy a bottle of wine or from a particular harvest from a particular year, and they pay $100, they convince themselves to make this wine test as $100.
Wow.
But once they don't know that this is $100 wine, and the wines, once everything goes blind, a huge number of these people just cannot tell the difference. And just go YouTube. It's absolutely fascinating. So a part of you liking those brands is because you convince your mind that you actually paid extra, and as such, it should taste better. And
wow.
Guess what? Once you convince your mind that it should taste better, it sort of will taste better. I mean, it's not that it's actually different, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
Wow, that's fascinating. So that is awesome stuff on white labeling. So in terms of partnerships, whether they be an internal partnership in the company or whether it be external with your business or your career or, obviously aiming for a win-win. Anybody have anything inspiring to share with us about aiming for a win-win in any kind of partnerships? Maybe a story.
Yeah, my mind said partnerships must be a win-win. Otherwise, the duration is going to be a lot shorter than what you think it is. For partnerships to work, there has to be a trust factor that you're doing what's best for me as I'm doing what's best for you. And then it also comes into just like Dennis was talking about with the Walmart stuff and how it's a huge benefit to Walmart, it's a huge benefit to the customers, but it's not a benefit to Kellogg's or to whoever. Well, that's why a lot of these brands will go and they'll say, you know what, we're going to do our own thing. We're going to go to a central market, or we're going to go to a Trader Joe's, and we're just going to eliminate our product from your stores because it's not a win-win. But again, Walmart understands that, and they're big enough that they leverage the fact that when we're providing you brand awareness and things besides a monetary gain, when they try to sell that. But when it's a win-win situation, the partnership is at its best. If it's not a win-win, then the partnership, the duration clock is already on the ticker, in my opinion.
I think from my perspective, I'm usually so busy at work, or doing whatever I'm doing. I tend to be focused on the work. And so I don't think a win-win is really top of mind for me ever. So it's something for me to really think about. It's not that I'm against a win, but it's just not something that I, have thought a lot about necessarily.
Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
So if you buy a car, right, and you get bent over backwards by the salesman, right, you may like the car, you may enjoy the car, it may be what you wanted, but you got bent over backward by that. So you're never going to go back to that particular place again to buy a car. You're not going to refer anybody there. You're not going to further the business. But
Yeah.
if you feel like we made a transaction, you got yours, I got mine, then what happens is it allows me to enjoy whatever the process is and allows me to continue the process again. Because if I'm in a partnership and yes, I'm getting a sale, but I'm getting a raw deal, then I'm already looking to take my business elsewhere. I want to find somebody else who's going to refer my product for a fair value, or is going to send me a lead with a fair value, So.
I absolutely agree with Jordan that win-win is absolutely must have. But a very interesting piece of research here, and again, I'm not sure if it's YouTube or just Google, is that it turns out that win-win is an extremely subjective thing. That there is no such thing as a fair deal. It's not that once you get to the dealership, and if the dealership sold you a Toyota Camry for kind of this price, then it means that they won and you lost, and kind of vice versa. That there is a fair market value, and kind of the customers will perceive whether it was a good deal or not by the numerical outcome of this deal. But win-win is whether this dealership kind of listened to me, whether they met my needs, whether they made sure that the car I get actually kind of satisfies my requirements and my needs. It turns out that again, there've been kind of a lot of scientific research done on this deal, is that win-win is an extremely subjective thing, and it's much more about your partner listening to you and making sure that the deal kind of meet your needs than the actual objective outcome of the deal, like a numerical outcome at whatever the price is, whatever the terms are. I mean, who pressed whom harder. So it turns out then actually in the car dealership, if you have a guy who is not just trying to win his bonus, but who is trying to kind of win you as the customer, it may take a huge advantage of you on the price, and you will still live happy and you will still come back there.
Wow.
And this is not just simple words. I mean, they have looked at it over and over again, and they turn out that whether you feel you've got a good deal has little correlation to the actual price at which the, again, Toyota Camry or whatever was bought.
Yeah, it's funny that Dennis talks about that. Is that long time ago, before I met my wife, I was looking at a sports car, and I'd always wanted this sports car, and I was single, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna get my dream car, and I got the worst price. They took me to the bank, but at the end of the day, I got exactly what I wanted, and guess who was happy? This guy, because I got my car, and I really didn't care what the price was. So,
wow,
I can definitely vouch for that.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I think as we navigate business forward, that's really helpful to understand that the experience colorizes the outcome.
Yeah, I would think too. How did the experience make everyone feel? Does everybody feel better from that experience?
Yep,
Like
everybody.
monetary value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as far as win-win, it's important that a lot of people confuse win-win with compromise, but win-win is not a compromise. No. Win-win is how people kind of perceive their friendliness of making a deal once they walk away from table. It's not necessarily they met in the middle and that one kind of side compromised and another one didn't. So win-win can come in a very in a situation when one side got everything that they wanted on the price, and still both parties will walk off the table happy.
Yeah, Chris Voss. I think you guys have heard me talk about him before. He used to be an FBI, like the lead hostage negotiator. He was number one. And he talks about in negotiations, which everything is a negotiation, but he talks about specifically a win-win is whenever you repeat back the deal to the client and they respond with, that's right. That's the deal. Because then they understand that that's what I'm agreeing to, because again, like Dennis talked about, sometimes the monetary, like what Dustin wanted, Dustin didn't care about the price. He just wanted this car with this amenities, with this, and as long as I had that. Some people may say, I don't care about the price, I just need it today. And so the timeliness in which you deliver the service or the product is what's most valuable to me. But if I'm trying to bring the price down, they could care less. Bring the price down as low as you want to. I just need it today. If you give it to me tomorrow, then it's irrelevant. I'm going to be frustrated. So when you repeat back the deal and the customer says, that's right, then I'm agreeing and I'm comfortable with what the deal is.
It's good. One of the things that my last sales team was doing a really bad job of is we would give the customer a free trial of our software, and we would also give them some free services. And it really led to a lot of wasted time and a lot of wasted money for both parties. And when I came in, and by the way, we weren't selling deals, even though we were giving away free software and free services. But I came in and I started focusing on training the team on discovery and really bottom up analysis of the customer, and really just asking the customer questions. And then I literally, it was partly asking the customer a lot of deep questions and reflecting them back, like I think Dennis was saying, kind of reflecting that back to them. And that was really helpful. And then we would also give them, on top of those ideas that the customer had for what they wanted, we give them new ideas as well based on our experience, which is kind of part of the value of that partnership. And then now their scope of, I guess, in you guys' words, what a win-win would be, their scope even grew bigger. And then what I would do is I'd go create a PowerPoint that would explain to the customer in a simple way how our software was going to meet all of those needs for that expanded scope. So it was a lot of work on the front end. So I think as we, before I summarize, I'll finish. It's a lot of work on the front end, but then the end product was getting those heads nodding, like Dennis was mentioning that, that's right. I had the first new business deal that IntelliMagic sold in 3 years was one that I helped with Northwestern Mutual Insurance, and we literally told their story in PowerPoint. Is it literally in there? And I even offered. I said, "Listen, I'm happy to turn this story of all this value and all your goals and how we're going to solve these goals. I'm happy to put that in your PowerPoint." They literally sent us the Northwestern Mutual PowerPoint template, and we actually translated that into their own words. And so they went off and told that story internally in their words. We basically gave them their story. And so it was truly a win-win because we helped them tell their own story. But I think that's interesting about partnerships and win-wins, that it's not just financial, but it's about how you make people feel and the experience, and being able to articulate back to them, reflect back to them exactly what they want. And that's fascinating because, Dennis, that's not economic. That's so funny. It's not economic.
It's talking to you, Dennis.
Well, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you expect some kind of reaction. Yeah, it's not about economics. It's basically about emotions, more or less. Like how do I feel about it?
Yeah. What I heard.
That's every time I want to get two things out of it. This is my second one. I'm sure I have a few more, but this is a big one for me. Interesting. Okay. So some examples. I talked about the thing that I'm farting around with. We talked about JL a little bit. I think I'll tell you about another friend of mine that is that's pretty interesting. So a friend of mine runs a commercial landscaping company, and it's 80 or 90% of it's commercial. And then he does do some consumer work as well. But the majority is like cities, a lot of cities. Like I think he's got like Arlington and Frisco and stuff like that. He does my kid's school actually. Anyway, they do lawn. They do the lawn care and the edging and all that. But they also offer chemicals. They also offer tree service. They also offer landscape construction. Well, check this out, and this goes back to partnerships. They actually, I've known this guy for a long time. I did not know until like a few weeks ago that his tree service was actually white labeled, that it's somebody else delivering that service in his company's name, but they sell it just like it's theirs. And so that's a great example of, he kind of has his core, and I think he's thinking about acquiring that little company, but for now it's white labeled. And that's an example of, like Jordan was saying earlier, about focusing on your core, but then you're able to service customers in other ways. So yeah, that's a neat example too. Other companies with partnerships. I mean, I think another one that I'll give you is, you guys maybe have heard of. I'll give you one that Paul relates to really well. So Amazon Web Services is the largest cloud company out there, and people run, like Capital One runs like their whole business on AWS at this point. If not, it's really close. But like huge companies now run all their IT on AWS cloud, Amazon Web Services cloud. But did you know that they actually run the cloud as a managed service provider for very few people? The reason why is they use partnerships. And so it's people like Rackspace and Accenture, and I don't know who else. There's everybody does it. There's a ton of people that do this kind of thing. But these people are people that will help you put your software into the cloud. And then once it's in the cloud, they'll help you run it. And so that's an example. It's a big company example of a partnership. Anybody have anything else on examples of partnerships?
I mean, the biggest example of partnerships is franchises. And if you look at if you have cereal boxes, that's going to be called white label. But if you are looking for the whole businesses, they're all around you. So somebody came up with a great idea, and then there are other people who deliver using this great idea.
Good one. Jordan, you don't know anything about that, do you?
No. No, yeah, franchising is a great example, Dennis. And there's several different models of franchising, but I mean, franchising is so prevalent. I mean, almost every business, the percentage is very high of companies that are out there that are franchised. And it's generally it's a win-win, for most people. Some are better than others. That's why you got to do your research, but great example.
Everyone knows the ultimate franchise is Wingstop.
What is it famous for?
The best wings.
Oh, that's right.
Do you have wings on the hold right now, Brad?
No, I already ate my wings on Tuesday night. Unfortunately, I had to have Buffalo Wild Wings, but every Tuesday I have Buffalo Wild Wings, which is probably my third favorite wings, but they're cheap on Tuesdays. So I settle. When I get my job, though, I may go back to Wingstop for sure because they're the best. What are some cautions other than getting crappy wings? What are some cautions when it comes to partnerships? Paul.
Cautions. Partnerships. No, I don't have, like, unless there's a bad environment or something like that.
I mean, I think.
They're probably so
okay,
it goes back to the point of win-win, maybe.
Yeah.
Like whenever you're doing a partnership, you always have to see on the other people's shoes in terms of what is in for me, like for them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there's gotta be something that they're gaining with the partnership. It's not just, okay, no, I'm just expecting you to do this for me. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. I think, though, from your technical background, brainstorming, communication, not building something that is absolutely perfect in the first version, but iterating. I mean, I think some of those principles that you are expert at apply great to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course. And like probably, yeah, like you said, no, it doesn't need to be perfect at beginning, and sometimes you just have to say when good enough is enough, and iterate and improve upon that. So.
Yep, good. Awesome. Well,
I'm not. If I were to add,
yeah,
I'm not sure
good.
exactly what's meant here by caution. But I think the biggest challenge, I would say, with a partnership is that you have to do a due diligence on the quality of the other side, right? And sometimes that's huge. So if you are a seller, and let's say you are getting like 10-15% commission, but you are earning this commission at the cost of your own brand, right? Or at the cost of your own image.
Yeah.
So you may go into somebody and somebody's going to say, oh yeah, of course, just sell my software. I'm going to give you a 15% cut. And then you start selling it to your customer. You put your name on the line, and you figure out that this software just doesn't work. It just doesn't perform. Yeah, you got your commission, but now everybody will think of you as a crappy service provider.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
It's a good one.
Yeah, that's scary. That's
It's
directly
all about
applies to me.
reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
I
right.
think clearly defined roles is a caution. If they're not clearly defined, I think that's a huge caution to me.
Even after you define the roles, you need to make sure that the other party will perform. Because obviously, once you go to them and say, like, what can you say about your software? They say, oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's the greatest software in the world, and we have all this like nice features and competitive price. But you still have to make sure that what they say is what they do, and vice versa. I mean, they have to do the same in terms of you. So
yeah, that's good, man.
Specialization definitely great. I mean, it's one of the greatest ideas in the world, but it comes with this extra cost of due diligence.
It's good.
That just reminds me, like in my job, we've got about 15 vendors that we use for different assemblies, and we have to manage, we have to keep up with, who's doing what. Are they following up with the customers? Are they, warranting certain items within a timely manner? I mean, that's not only do I have to do my job, but then I have to keep up with, managing vendors and relationships with them too. And yeah, that's very important, because if something falls on the vendor side, it makes us look bad, even though it's not us doing it. It is our vendor, and it makes us look bad. So we've had to blacklist, multiple vendors because they just didn't perform to our standard.
That's a great example of what Dennis was talking about right there. That phenomenon. Wow. Well, it's good caution for me, guys. I'll just be transparent. I have vetted the 2 contracts that I've signed so far for my little software stuff. The 2 that I said I'm on the verge of signing with, which is probably next week. I haven't seen a demo yet. I just had a presentation. So I do have a demo scheduled though, so I haven't signed yet. But I'm going to be extra careful to really beat it up during the demo, and not just think about the functionality and think about how it works and meeting the need, but also what happens when something goes wrong. What's the support look like? Hey vendor, tell me an example of some failures and what, so I think I need to beat them up. I did have demos planned, so I don't want you to think I was going to run off and sign those without a demo, but I now have a little bit more ammo and a little bit more fire in my belly to really go deeper with my vetting process. So I appreciate this.
Are these companies that you're currently using right now, Brian, or
one of them I used to work for, Alert Logic I used to work for, so I know their stuff is incredible. It's unbelievable. One of these guys, so I have a company in Fort Worth that I sold it to. They caught a hack in like 30 seconds, like while it was still on the wire. I mean, it's an unbelievable story, and multiple hacks, actually, like 2 that I'm for sure, 2 stories I know. So it's incredible software and service behind it. The other one I've seen a demo of, and I'm very comfortable with. It's cybersecurity training, and they'll pretend to attack your employees with emails and see if they click on them, and then they'll report to you. So I mean, it's legit. It's good stuff. The other 2 is that I haven't actually signed with yet. I'll just have to beat them up more, and now I'm gonna do that. I mean, I would have already seen a demo, but this will give me more ammo to really interrogate them.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. I'm swallowing a little bit hard as I think about that. So I'm glad we talked about it. So how do you get decided? I mean, decide on your model. I mean, it depends on your situation. I mean, obviously, Dustin is currently partnering with some families to help them out in his, financial stuff. I'm doing my thing. JL's doing theirs. Paul, we're gonna have him go to Hive Bakery and meet them this weekend in Flower Mound and figure that out.
Grapevine,
Oh,
actually.
Oh, they're
I
Grapevine?
did talk to Jordan about that YouTube channel that I was going to start.
Yeah.
With the fishing channel, and I had actually come across a friend of my wife's from church. Her son is looking to do some sort of like video editing, and I said, well, do you want to partner up? And what I'll do is create content. I'll have you edit the content. We'll work with each other, and it'll give you an opportunity to get better. It'll give me an opportunity to produce more content, and then you get better at that. I'll get better at what I'm getting at. And I don't have to, sit there and. So now I've got a partner that's going to do my the media side, the video editing. So
such a good win-win too, because he'll get real experience. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. The life-giving network of partnerships. That's awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, research, prospect. Anybody have any comments on? We talked a lot. I think we touched on listening a little bit, but researching. I mean, Dustin gave us a good example of researching. Prospecting just means making the calls, making that outbound effort, right? So prospecting just means the outreach. So Paul going to Hive and having the conversation, or Dustin reaching out to this video editor, which is such a cool, literally a perfect example. But prospecting is going and putting the effort behind it and trying.
Event one step expired 1 goal.
So yeah, cool. All right, well, I think we're going to shift over into ministry. So let's do that. So I think what we did last time